as to
when
what
we
saying
put
is.
Ebs and Kash in the title, and they're like, "Who's Adam? Is he in trouble?" Like,
Trouble. Yeah.
all right, here we go. Technically, we already did episode 1 of Ticket Studs, but this is going to be the first episode where we're going to do some reviewing. So I'm looking forward to that. What's going on, Ebs? How you doing, bud?
I'm good. How are you, Adam?
Uh, I'm going to go by Cash on here.
Oh, man. I'm good. Cash, how are you?
I don't care. You can call me whatever you want, bud.
Don't call me late for dinner or whatever.
Yeah,
That's
when
what
we
saying
put
is.
Ebs and Kash in the title, and they're like, "Who's Adam? Is he in trouble?" Like,
Trouble. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's cool, man. I'm good, bud.
Good.
It's kind of the middle of the week. We've been talking about doing this pod for a while, and I'm just excited that we're doing it. I kind of wish we had some different movies to review at the outset, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We are going to be talking about Cruella today, and we're also going to be
Yes.
talking about Booksmart now. Not a new movie. It's been out for
2 years?
probably about 2 years. Came out in 2019. But I just recently saw it. I know you saw it for the first time, so I figured, we'll talk about it. It's been a weird year and a half at the theater. Not a lot coming out. A lot of stuff at home. Let's kick it off, man. Cruella. Let's talk about. What did you think?
So when I went and saw it was the first time I've been to the theater since the pandemic. I hadn't been at all, and not that there was a lot of movies even coming out to do so, but when I went, I saw this preview for this movie a long time ago, and I was like, this is dumb. It looks so stupid, because an origin story for a villain, they already did that with Maleficent, which I can't have an opinion on that because I didn't see it, but apparently it did well enough to do 2 movies. So I was like, well, maybe this will work. I don't know, but I don't have high hopes going into it. Yeah. After watching it, I actually really enjoyed it, which is crazy to say, because I think that the premise on paper, when you read it or when you see like a trailer, you're like, okay, that's just, how are they going to make a villain sympathetic? They actually did, in a way, and it was actually a really good movie, in my opinion. What do you think? We can go into depth after we get both of our opinions, I think.
Yeah. If we're gonna steal from Siskel and Ebert, you're gonna go thumbs up on this one. I'm going like super thumbs down. On Cruella, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I had some issues with it, man.
Okay.
I tried to go into it. I went into it with the same expectations you did, where my first question was, do I want this? Do we want an origin story or a prequel to Cruella de Vil?
Yeah.
Again, Maleficent, if it's going to start off a chain of these, then I'm okay with that. I think that's kind of cool. I mean, get all the content out there that you can. I would be particularly interested in seeing an Ursula origin story from Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Because she's probably one of my favorite villains in the Disney realm. Cruella de Vil, okay. I mean, it was interesting to me because I feel like Emma Stone is at a point in her career where she's got to be everybody's first pick for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
She's near the tip top for actresses working today. She may be a victim of her generation, and this was just a role that she thought she couldn't pass up. Like, it'd be really fun. This is her
working
way
with Disney. Because
get the foot in the door with Disney. Having a franchise of your own. Her chance to this is her Harley Quinn, to Margot Robbie's. But man, I absolutely did not like it. And I appreciate the fact that I'm probably not the target demographic for this movie. But it's Disney, and I feel like Disney is supposed to be kind of for everybody. It's a wide net. And even with that thinking of, well, I'm not a kid, I'm not a family man, whatever, I still had a lot of problems with it. So what did you really like about it? What stood out to you like, oh, this really, wrapped me up?
So, I mean, I will say the first parts of the movie, I was like, this is predictable. Didn't like a lot of the CGI. There was too much CGI. Like when you're holding a puppy and it's just sitting there on your lap, and you CGI it, it's like, why would you do that? Like, just have a dog sitting there on your lap.
It was really bad. The CGI
Yeah,
it's 2021, man.
that's
Like,
correct. And it was a lot of it too.
the
So
Jurassic
that's,
Park dinosaurs in 93 looked like real dinosaurs compared to these fake ass looking puppies.
yeah.
You know, like, what's going on?
So that started to turn me off at the beginning of the movie, but then just how the story unfolds, and I don't know. I like Emma Thompson too. She made a really good villain, I feel like. And it, are we doing spoilers? I don't want to do too many spoilers. If we're not doing that.
Let's try to stay as spoiler free as we can. You know.
Okay. Yeah. So she was a really good villain. And I think that she got her comeuppance in the end, which was always good because, you know, it's, I feel like some Disney people get either too much or too little. And I think she got just the right amount of the revenge. And then I think what saved it for me, and I think this is a lot to do with it, which I know it's not the film itself, but the music. It had a banging soundtrack, which I didn't think it would, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Guardians of the Galaxy, because whoever picked that soundtrack and all the music for it, they must have had a hand, or someone. I know it wasn't James Gunn, because I'm pretty sure he did like all the music for Guardians of the Galaxy, but like the songs, because it's set in the 60s at the beginning, and then, you know, it has the time jump to when she's older and has like music from the 70s. I was like, oh my gosh, this is really good. So
yeah,
I
that's
love the
why
music in it.
I was kind of disappointed, man, because I've always said, you know, a movie is really made by its soundtrack, and the soundtrack is really good. You know, there's Queen, there's Blondie, there's the Stones, Ike and Tina Turner, there's Nina Simone. I mean, there's a ton of great tracks, and there's also a score, which is kind of rare. Usually it's either all score or it's all, you know, released songs as part of a collective soundtrack, but it was both, which I thought was cool. And it still came up short for me. I feel like it couldn't decide, look, either you're going to do a grimy, grungy, you know, origin story steeped in realism, or you're going to do a super illogical, fantastical type story. And to me, they were trying to do both. You know, it was real, but then there was Disney fake stuff, you know, like at the part where she's got the it's a very convoluted plan to get this key or whatever, and she throws the key up multiple stories up to the guy, and he just happens to be standing in the right spot, and nobody notices. That kind of bugs me.
That's pretty fantastical. But I mean,
to me, pick a lane. Like, either have a story that's like that, you know, kind of like Big Fish, where that's the point. Like, it's supposed to be these embellished stories, or make it real. Make it like, you know, I had my problems with it, but Joker in you know, Todd Phillips' Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, like, make it you know, a little more real. But that was an issue I had with it. The music was really good. That was probably the one redeeming thing about it. The beginning thing, you know, we won't spoil it, but the beginning event that kind of, you know, is the impetus for all of this was so unexpected. I kind of laughed at it, and it was so distracting that I was thinking, like, I was distracted by trying to figure that out. By the time they got around to explaining what happened, I was kind of lost. I'm like, this is, I don't know. I thought it was kind of dumb.
Are you talking about the homage that we talked about in the first episode, where I was like, oh, you're gonna know, and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, and roll your eyes? Did you roll your eyes at that part?
Yeah.
You talk about with the Dalmatians, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. So that, after seeing it, and then because I had seen that clip and was like, oh my gosh, that's one of the reasons why I thought this would be a bad movie. And then, to the opposite of what you're saying, I think that after what was explained and everything, it kind of made it make more sense. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I can see the point of why they did that. It just so happened that they're Dalmatians, and it's because she's like, well, they're pretty and also mean, and that's a good combination, which I think is what Cruella herself, or Estella, depending on who you're talking about, and then the Baroness was Emma Thompson's character. I think that they're both beautiful, but then they're also that beauty hides crazy or aggression or something like that, which from my understanding, Dalmatians are good dogs, but because of their inbreeding and everything like that, they can be a little crazy. So it makes sense.
Well, I guess the other major problem I had with it, because I don't know, I feel like we watched two different movies at this point. It hit you the right way, hit me the wrong way. We're doing an origin story, right?
Yeah.
This is how Cruella de Vil became Cruella de Vil.
Correct.
Whether it's the prequel to the cartoon of 61, the one we all mostly know, or a prequel to the 2000 or 96, whatever the Glenn Close one came out. This is kind of a mini spoiler, so don't listen. But when Cruella makes the Dalmatian coat, most of the way through the movie, and it's not real Dalmatian, like it's to make you think it's Dalmatian, and it's kind of like a little wink, like it's fake, to her friend Artie or whatever. I'm like, well, then what's the whole point of this? The whole point is that she's this crazy psycho dog killer who makes coats and is this just icon villain. And that's the one thing they took away from her. Like, well, what was the whole point of this? Like,
did you see the end credit scene?
I did, yeah.
Okay, good. Because
which I didn't care for. Again, maybe I'm hard to please.
I mean, it's no Nick Fury showing up at Iron Man's house and being like, "Hey, we're starting an Avengers initiative." But I mean, it was okay. I like the movie. But I think there were some scenes like that was kind of heavy-handed.
It felt tacked on. It was like we didn't because they didn't give a ton of little heads up, like, hey, this is a nod to the original film. Like there was a little bit of that, but not a lot. And so when they tacked that on the mid credits, I was like, oh, okay. Like
and that's the thing too. Like the only reason I kind of knew something like that was going to happen because the person that she knew in high school or elementary or whatever the grade school was named Anita, and then the lawyer was named Roger. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure, because I had just seen the original 1961 101 Dalmatians not too long ago, which by the way is only like 70 minutes. I thought that movie lasts forever, but it's very short.
Well, when you're a little kid.
It's like canine crunchies and all that stuff. But you hear Anita and Roger, and it kind of clicked. And I was like, I think that's Roger was a musician, and then Anita, like I know she worked for Cruella, and that's how like everything happens. So it was just like I was like, they're probably going to get together at the end and have some little scene, but they didn't. They never actually really had a scene together, even with the spoiler alert, even with the end credit. But it kind of set it up for that, and it's the Disney dogs cinematic universe, the DDCU, I guess, because they're going to bring out. They have Lady and the Tramp already. It's going to be a crossover event. That's crazy. But I mean, overall, I did enjoy it. Maybe it was just because the nostalgia of being back in the theater, and it just was like overly hyped. Because going in and buying my ticket and getting some bunch of crunches and being like, all right, let's do this, and then watching it and seeing trailers beforehand, I was like, I've missed this. So
what was the last movie you saw in the theater before lockdown? Do you remember?
I think it was Joker.
Was it really?
I think so. That or what was Joker 2019?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was that. Because the last couple movies that I can think of were Joker or It Chapter 2, which I think came out earlier than that. So, but I mean, I'm sure if I looked at a list of movies that came out, I was like, oh yeah, I saw that in theaters. But that's like the two that come to mind. So
yeah, the last time I was in a theater, it's weird, but it's how I remember it, was the day Kobe Bryant passed away in the helicopter crash. Yeah, January 26th, 2020. I saw The Gentleman in the theater with Matthew.
Oh yeah,
the Guy Ritchie movie. Very good, by the way, if you haven't seen it. But I'm just so ready to be back in theaters, and maybe my expectations were a little too high, and that's why I was, maybe that's why I'm so disappointed in it. But again, the issues I had with it, I try not to be too harsh, but it just didn't get me there. Like I said, the soundtrack was a redeeming thing, and actually, you know what? I'm wrong in saying that's the only redeeming thing. A great thing I need to shout out is Paul Walter Hauser, the guy who played Horace.
Yeah.
He's great. He's
Yeah.
really funny. Now, one of the other issues I had with the movie is I feel like they had a lot of, we're going for a joke here, we're going for a laugh here,
Yeah.
and it didn't land for me. I thought a lot of their jokes or funny things that they were going for fell flat.
Yeah.
But he was just enjoyable. He
He
was
was.
fun to watch. If you didn't know he was American, you would think he was British with that accent.
I actually didn't know he was American, but I thought he was
He
British because
nailed it.
what's the angle?
Yeah, man.
I see. I think that was one of the jokes that it was kind of a running joke, and it was good. And then after I can't remember what part it was, but he's like, "Oh, that's the angle," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, good."
Yeah.
So I think it was after they discovered the necklace, and he's like, "Okay, this is what it's for." And it's like, no, this is just happenstance. So
yeah. So did you see one of the twists coming? Because I was watching and I'm like, Mark Strong is a really great actor and he's kind of a bigger name. And I'm like, why is he just this valet? Like, surely he has a bigger. Yeah. Well, I'm like, surely he has a bigger role in this. It ended up being a bigger role than I thought initially, the first half of the movie. But it was still not all that. Like, I thought he would have more to do with it. And I just felt like a lot of it was, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, he was underutilized, I feel like. But I mean, the twist and everything like that, because I feel like there's, that twist, and then I think that was really the only twist. But I think that with him, I think that he could have been used more because I know he was like the valet, the head of her security or whatever, anything like that. But I feel like he would have been better if he was used more because he's just a good actor in general.
True. So. All right. So our first disagreement. Cheers. Oh man, you're killing me with the
what?
I've just got the bottle of water. You've got the.
It's nice. My last bit of coffee. So.
Okay, let's talk Booksmart.
All right. So I went first last time. You go first this time.
I wasn't sure what to expect. There was a lot of newer faces on this, and I guess that can also be said of the movie that it's most compared to, Superbad. When Superbad came out in 2007, I don't think I knew who Judd Apatow was. I'd seen 40-Year-Old Virgin, but I don't know that I necessarily knew that was his. Jonah Hill, same thing. I'm like, oh, I recognize that guy, but that was the movie that kind of put them on the map. Like, oh, this is Michael Cera, this is Jonah Hill. This is a movie where this is Caitlin Dever, this is Beanie Feldstein, Jonah Hill's sister. Olivia Wilde.
It is. That makes sense.
Olivia Wilde, the director, known as 13 from House. She was on the OC. She's been in a lot of stuff, but this is her first directing effort. And so this is kind of let's just see what happens. We're kind of in a, first time they're starring in something, and this is her first directing. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. There was, lots of adult humor, but not gross, sick humor. The girls talked like girls talk in real life. Beanie Feldstein, both of them are great, but Beanie Feldstein played Molly in the movie.
Yeah.
Some incredible comedic acting that she's got, some great timing when they're in the bedroom on the bunk beds and she's like whispering, they're like whispering back and forth to each other. That scene killed me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was Olivia Wilde's direction. I think she showed a lot of strengths in her first time, and when they're in the back of the car in that one scene and that girl's vitamins, the powder in the tin.
Oh yeah.
Assuming it's cocaine or some other chopped up drug. How many times have we seen in a movie where they're bumbling over it and then poof, like it's like, oh, it's going to be one of those scenes. But the way Wilde cuts it, or maybe it's the editor, I don't know whose decision it was, but it was a great choice where the girls have it. They cut away and the driver of the car comes to an abrupt stop. And then when they go back to the car, they're already covered and they're like, the timing of that was so great because they took a scene that we've seen before, but they made it different and made it even funnier.
Yeah, because it happened off camera, and then you come back and you're like,
and they're like, and you're like, oh, it happened, and it's funny because their reactions were great. The the music was really great and woven throughout. There was lots of hip hop, and
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know what the budget on this was. I feel like there was enough, behind it that uh, if it's a smaller indie type film, I feel like it was a
Yeah.
bigger one. But I feel like they got to get away with stuff that normally like a producer or a studio would come in and be like, this doesn't make sense, or the audience did like they test it to death.
Yeah.
But like when she pulls up to the house and they just start doing those weird dances, and there's like nothing going on other than just
Yeah.
being goofy and weird. I love that their
Yeah.
personality shines through. It doesn't have that comedy thing where there's like, okay, they got all the jokes out of the way. Now we got to
Yeah.
tell the story. Like, no, it stayed true throughout. I don't know. I absolutely loved it. What'd you think?
I thought it was okay. I wouldn't say I absolutely loved it. It was a good movie though. When you're talking about the back of the car, which I feel like apparently all the best scenes happen in the back of a car, because the scene with the pizza delivery guy,
Oh
um,
yeah.
and then the part where Jason Sudeikis is driving them. He's their Uber driver or Lyft driver, whichever one it was, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, because that's like, you can play your music and then the subsequent scene after, you're just like, I was surprised how much they had of that. And then, the
Yeah.
emotional scene at the end, in a car, and then it was, broken down and then made funny again. And it's like, oh, okay, it's not going to end on a sad note. So that's good.
That's an
Um,
excellent observation, man. You're right. I mean, some of the best, funniest moments in that whole movie
yeah.
were shot in that car or in a
Yeah.
car. That's great.
And then the end credits, which, I mean, the movie
Oh
is
yeah.
with the balloons. I love that.
So fun.
Because I wish you could see, like, they showed more of that. Like, if you can go online and see, when everyone's getting hit with water balloons and see their reaction afterwards, because it slow mos and then explodes on their face and they have genuine reactions. But like you said though, you told, when we were talking about watching this movie, I literally knew nothing about it. I didn't do any research. The only thing I knew was that it was Olivia Wilde's directorial debut. And watching it, my first thought was, wow, this is like a female Superbad. And so I think it was. And it was funny, had a lot of funny scenes, but I was just like, at the same time, I was like, I feel like they're just kind of copying off of it, because it's two kids who are about to graduate high school, and literally the next day is their graduation, and they're trying to get an epic night of partying. Although in Superbad it was getting laid, and this was just like partying, and being late or getting laid is the afterthought of that.
Right.
Because but I mean, they put their own twists and modernized it a little bit since Superbad came out in 07. This is 2019, so it's 12 years later. But I still really enjoyed the movie. Like, if I saw it in theaters, I probably would have been laughing more than by myself. Because when I watch movies, I don't really laugh a lot. I'm just like, that's good, it's good.
Right,
but if I'm with people, like, a more contagious laugh, I'm like, oh, that's great. So didn't have a lot of moments, but at the beginning with Will Forte, when he's talking about all the names of the different dishes that he made, like, I love you and I'll never always cherish you, and it's like, because of olives. It's like, okay. And then later the scene where they're talking about Ling Ling or Ping Ping or whatever the panda's name was, and Will Arnett comes in, or I'm sorry, not Will Arnett, Will Forte, and I'm just like, oh my god, he and Jason Sudeikis, their small parts made it like really good. So
yeah, there was a lot to like about this movie. I think maybe one of the biggest reasons why is Olivia Wilde in her directorial debut, like you said.
yeah.
Because some things came out, about it. She was, I think it was a directors on directors video, for lack of
Yeah.
a better term. It was like it's a series I think I've seen on YouTube where two directors interview each other.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
And she said that she adopted a rule on set: no assholes. Like, this is going to be a professional set, but it's not going to be, we're not going to put up with anybody's crap just to get, the job done. Like, it's going to be professional, but it's going to be a little more familial.
Yeah.
The two leading girls, women, Beanie Feldstein, Caitlin Dever, Olivia Wilde had them live together as roommates for a couple of months. It was like 8-10 weeks or so
Yeah.
that they lived together to develop that rapport. And I think that shined through in a big way.
Yes.
And so I think that atmosphere. So then when we get to the end credits, and it just seems like you can tell they had fun making it.
Yeah.
What are we going to do for the end credits? We're all going to stand there and we're going to chuck a water balloon at your face and film it in
Yeah.
slow-mo, and it's going to be hilarious. Because it's, again, this movie felt like, hey, we're playing with house money. The odds are kind of stacked against us. We're all kind of first timers here. Let's do what we want to do. Let's have fun. And I feel like that shone throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. And then another actress that was in it that I thought was really good is it Billie Lourd, Carrie Fisher's daughter?
Yeah.
She was hilarious. Like, oh my gosh, like just her character, how she popped up everywhere, and they're like, what the hell? It's just like really, really good. So, but the one thing that kind of slowed it down for me was the doll scene. That was a little awkward.
You didn't like that?
I mean, there were some funny lines, but I was just kind of like, well, this is weird because I didn't expect it to go that way. So I think upon the first watching, I was just kind of like, I don't know about that. But now, after seeing the whole movie and thinking about it, like I was like, yeah, this is. I mean, it was a scene that I feel like they could have done, but if they didn't have the dolls and filmed it like they were dolls, it wouldn't have been as funny probably, because when they're leaving and they're walking out all stiff-legged and you're like, okay. So
if it was just for that joke, I was okay with it.
Okay, yeah, it was, but it put a slowdown just for like, because I was watching and I was like, what is going on? So
yeah.
But other than that, it was a good movie, I think.
Well, and maybe the parts of the movie are intended for you to have a little bit of a herbal buzz going.
Yeah,
and
maybe herbal buzz. I like that.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Cruella, I go thumbs down. You go thumbs up.
Yes, sir.
Booksmart, I think we go both thumbs up on that one.
Yeah.
I give Cruella, I'll say 2 stars. To borrow from Roger Ebert, one of my idols. I'd go 2 stars. For me, again, thumbs down. I didn't care for it, but I think there's something there if you're into it, because I feel like it's trying to be so many different movies. There's something for everybody. I felt like it was a little dark. Like it was dark to watch and a little menacing. So I'm like, well, if it's not for kids, then who is this for? But anyway, I've said enough about Cruella. I give that 2 stars. I give Booksmart 4 stars. I thought it was incredible.
Okay.
You want to go star system?
Yeah. I'll say that Cruella, I think it was 3 stars because like we had talked about, it was good. Had the CGI, I think, is what took off that 1 star because they relied heavily upon it when I feel like they didn't need to.
Yeah.
And if they were going to rely on it so much, they could have made it a little sharper, a little better.
Absolutely. A little better.
A little better.
It was bad.
It was pretty bad. And then for Booksmart, I think I'll give that 3 as well, 3 stars. So it's 3-3 for me. Just because, like I said, it was like a female Superbad, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it was just kind of like, well, I feel like this is kind of played. When I first started watching, like, this is played out, but then it's like, well, this is actually, they did a new twist and modernized it with some of the stuff that happened. And I mean, the ending was surprising, but
right.
It was Evan and Jonah. No, it wasn't Jonah, but it was Evan and whatever were the characters in Superbad. They were like,
Evan and Seth.
Seth, there we go. Oh, it's because Seth Rogen wrote it for himself. That's right. He was supposed to play it years ago. But anyway, but it was it was a good movie. So 3 and 3.
And if you're going to, in this retread world of Hollywood where there's not really an original idea, if you're going to remake a movie, you might as well do a great one like Superbad. I think they did it well.
Yeah. Which the good thing was it wasn't shot for shot. Like it started out that way, but then it like took its own turns and was really good. So, but yeah.
All right, good stuff, buddy. Well, Ticket Studs episode number 1 or 1A, however you want to look at it, officially 1A. In the books. We're talking about doing some fun stuff. We'll have some more movie reviews. We'll have some games coming up, and we'll talk to you soon.